eCognition Deconstructed. And yeah, alright, let's talk about arrays today. You're probably familiar with the concept of arrays, but just as a quick recap, what is an array? So specifically in eCognition, the array functions in eCognition Developer let you create lists of features which are accessible from all rule set levels. This allows rule sets to be repeatedly executed across, for example, classes, levels, and maps. So a list of values, more or less, right? That's an array. Let's assume here that's your first array, so a list of numbers, and you can access actually each number by its index. And important to know is that it starts with 0. So index 0 is the first value in your array, in this case 2. And index 4 is 3. So what can you do with an array in eCognition? Let's start with a simple array with numbers. So you can add values. You simply can select the value to add to the array. As you see here, number 1, you can add based from array items, so you can add values from a different array. Add based from feature, so you can add values from features. You can update value, so you can enter an index or value pair for the value to be updated. Then remove by value, you can remove values, remove by index. Then clear, you can clear the array and it's gonna be empty. And finally, you can sort them. And eCognition holds helpful features to visualize your arrays, right? Array item, array size, and array value, so you can display them in the object information window, and you see your values to see how many values you have in there. And yeah, the array item is index 5, so the 6th value in this array. And the powerful thing in eCognition is that we are not only supporting numbers for arrays, but also strings, classes, image layers, thematic layers, levels, features, regions, and map names. And now you're probably wondering, why should I use this stuff? You actually can use it to loop through the array, right? So you can have a look at classes, for example, one after the other, or at thematic layers, one after the other, and apply a section of the rule set to the first class in the array, and then if this is done, take the second one, and so on. And that means the arrays are accessible via the domain, so you can define or select the array as a domain in all process related operations, and that means you can loop through the array and use it as domain definition. And also in any algorithm where it's possible to enter value or variable parameter, you also can select an array item. Alright, enough theory. Let's first have a look at how to create an array in eCognition, then how to read from an array and how to use that information in your rule set, and also then how you can write from your rule set into an array. Let's go. First of all, let's have a look at how you can create an array. Two options here in the process tree: add new process, and if you look for update array, you have this algorithm which creates or can create an array. You have the different modes: add values, add based from array item. That's what I showed you on the very first slide. Yeah, and you have two options here. Those are important. Add value always. That means duplicates are allowed, right? So you can have 2 times the same class in an array, or you can set it to only once. Right? And if you change the mode here, you get different options, right? If you clear, you have to select the array that you want to clear. We don't have an array here. Remove by index, and then you see what options you have. To create an array, you simply can, so actually we don't have one now, we can create simply type it in, first array, click in the gray area, and then this pops up and you can define here first the type, and those are the types that are supported: double string, class, image layer, thematic layer, level, feature, region, and map name. So I think I forgot region before, but yes, so those are all supported. Let's go for double. and you already can add values here. 1, 2, 6, 4. Okay. And hit execute. So we've created an array and we've entered some values manually. Again, object information window, helpful to see the values quickly. Array item, array values, double click, choose the array, my first array, hit OK. And here we go, 1, 2, 56, 6, 4, 0. And actually I'm quickly gonna copy and paste this process to show you that you can sort. Here we've sort. So if we sort it ascending, it's gonna sort them, and yeah, we can clear, and that's gonna remove all values from the array. So that's the algorithm that you can use to create an array. Second option is here under process, manage arrays. This is gonna open this manage arrays interface, and here you can add arrays. Let's go for, we don't have classes, we don't have nothing. Strings. Let's call it my first string array. Okay, and now we have those two arrays. We can edit the values. Let's go into the string one that we've created, edit, and go here and type in those strings. Same is true for the double, right? Okay. You can rename the arrays and you can delete them here in this interface. And now we have two arrays. Gonna display the second one as well, the string. And again, we can clear. This one is clearing this one, or we can sort. Copy paste. Let's go for sort the string ascending, so it's going to sort it alphabetically. I think that this is self-explaining, the modes, right? Have a look at it. It's going to be very helpful. Some explanation here or in the help. Let's have a look at how you possibly could use an array. And I'm simply gonna delete the rule set here. So we have clean project, and I'm gonna drag and drop this project file. It's actually taken from another Deconstructed video on morphology, but I think it nicely shows or can show how you can use arrays. So I'm gonna load this DPR file, simply drag and drop. And there you have the rule set that was used or developed for this morphology, right? Morphology smoothes or can smooth the outlines of your objects. And right, so we have a land cover classification, and then we can run morphology, and morphology smoothes all the objects. And then I think we should add a merge region. We have small objects left here. Merge region. All right, and that's the result after smoothing, right? So we are smoothing the outlines using here opening and closing operations, and I can reset everything here. So before and after. So we apply smoothing here, but we are not currently in this setup of the rule set. We are not in control of which class is smoothed before the other one, and that has actually an effect on the final results. In this case, if you don't set a class filter, it's gonna go through the objects and you don't have control of the order, and it might make sense to first, or you want, for example, to first start with bare soil and then forest or whatever, so give it a certain order. And we can actually do it here. So class filter, if you set it to bare soil, it will only be applied on bare soil, let's change it here as well, and then you're gonna see it. So bare soil is this yellow class, and if I run the setup and now run the morphology, only bare soil is affected, right? And we still have forest, which is not smooth. One approach would be to copy and paste this section for each class, right, and change the class filter, or you could use an array and loop through the array. To do so, we have to create a class array, and then the idea is to loop through this morphology section for each class in this array. Yeah, let's go in here in the process tree, create a new process. I'm gonna call it create and update array. And I'm gonna insert a child process here and look for update array. Where is it? Update array. And first I'm gonna give my array a name, and I'm gonna call it class array. And type is important, it's a class array, so it holds classes. Now what you can do is define the values here, select all the classes, or add value always, right, set it to only once, and we only want to have them once in there, and then you can select the classes here as well. Let's go for all the classes. There's also another way how to update it. I'm simply going to show it here manually. So execute this one. We have an array now. I'm going to display it here in the object information window. So right click, select features to display, and I'm going to look for array. And I know it's down here, array values. I'm going to select the class array, and that should display the array down here. So now it's filled with all the classes we have in our class hierarchy, or that we've selected here. Now, for example, I'm going to copy and paste this update array. You can sort those. Sort ascending, and that's going to sort them alphabetically. It's actually the same. True. Let's go for descending so we see something is changing. Right, so we start with water, so that's the first item in the array, index 0. And now what I want to do is loop through this array and take the first item and process some algorithms on it, and then if this is done, I'm going to take the second class. Okay, how to do it? We first going to create a process here, and in domain we choose array. Now we can choose the array. We just have this class array, and the cool thing now is that we can create a temporary variable, a class variable. I'm simply going to call it _temp, so I have to create it. I don't have one. Color is red. And what this process here does, it looks at an array domain, right? And the domain defines where to apply the processes on. And we choose the array class array, and this one takes the first item out of the array and writes it into this temporary class variable _temp that we've just created. And now we can insert child processes. So everything that is a child process here will be using this array item, this variable, the temp variable, so the first array item of the array. And yeah, we actually want to do the morphology, right? So I'm gonna simply drag and drop those puppies down here. And let's open the first one, morphology. Now we have to change the class filter to the temp class, right? And this one will be updated in each loop. Now, bare soil, nope. I want to use temp. And then we apply a merge region, right? Right after we've grown and shrink. So not at the end, right? After we've done that to all classes, we're going to do it after each step, after each class has been modified. Okay, so this should do the trick. let's display here some object information that will be interesting. This class variable, right? Let's see, this is unclassified currently, but if we execute this, this is gonna be updated with the array items. So first it's gonna take water, right? You can set a breakpoint here, so I'm simply gonna create an empty process and right click on it, hit breakpoint F9. So first I'm gonna run the setup, and then I'm gonna run the create and update, and then it's gonna stop here, right? And you see currently the variable used, the temp variable, is water, and it only applied those steps to water. If we now continue this loop, so you can right click on this one, I know this is a loop, hit continue, you see it takes the second one and applies all of those, and then it's gonna stop. And continue. You also can hit F10 actually. So that is working smoothly. Now let's have a look. Maybe you're interested in some statistics that you also want to know about your classes, and you want to use an array to do so. I'm going to show you how you can update this array in this loop, and let's say you're interested in the number of objects for each class after the morphology. Right? Not very meaningful, but it shows you the trick. So what I want to do is create an array with the number of objects for each class processed. So what I'm gonna do is I'm first gonna create a variable. I don't have to create a variable. Well, let's skip this. Let's create right away an array. So I always use Control A, right, to get into this edit process window to add a process instead of right click add process, just a shortcut. So update array, and I want to create a new array, and I'm going to call it number of objects per class. Oh, I've chosen the wrong algorithm. Update array. There we go. So I copied the name, so copy paste, and it's a double, right? It's just numbers, and add value always. That's important, and the value to add is from a feature, and the feature is called number of classified objects, and we have to create this feature, and it's important that you use here the temp. Alright, so it counts how many objects are in this temp, and then gonna write it into the array, and always, right? So it's gonna write it each time. Okay, let's execute it once and also display it here in the object information window. Oh, I'm sorry it's taking too long, but it is interesting and important. Create this one here. 307, so that's the number of water objects. Ah, hold on. It's the number of low vegetation. This is currently our temp class. But let me quickly clear this array. This number clear. Okay. And let's start the whole thing again. And this is not active. Okay, so set up again and run the morphology, and we have the breakpoint, right? So first item in the array is water, so it looked at water, did a morphology on water, and we have 34 water classes. And now if we continue, it should update the temp class here to man-made, and add the number of objects that are classified as man-made. So let's right click here and hit continue. All right, it applied it on man-made and we have 117. Continue. Low vegetation 307. Continue. Forest 248. Continue. Bare soil. Now continue. Okay, now we're done. So bare soil was the last item in the array, and now it stops the loop. Okay. Let's see if the whole thing is running. It looks good, right? And now we've applied morphology step by step in a controlled order of the classes, and that might be important, right? And then we updated a new array based on the number of objects. It could be also the average area or whatever. So some statistics that might be important to you. I'm gonna clear the number of objects per class and now gonna run the whole thing. I'm gonna show you one more trick. Sorry about that. I'm gonna right click on the merge region and say update view. That's gonna take more processing time, but it's really nice to see what's going on. So it's gonna update the view here every time it has processed this merge region. And it's gonna loop here 5 times for each class once. Let's set it up, and then it's gonna update the view here at this step. And I'm gonna run the whole thing. It updates the view, it updates the view, updates the view. All right, there we go. So that was my example of how you can use arrays. Have a look at some rule sets in our knowledge base in the community. I think there's some projects and examples where arrays are used, also in a different way. Yeah, play around, enjoy arrays in eCognition, and have a great day.